Hello. Welcome to Sunday School with Miss Wesley. I am so glad you have taken an opportunity to click on this video to further your knowledge in the Bible. Whether you are a beginner, an intermediate, or quite advanced, I hope to enlighten you in your biblical studies. I try to teach at a level that anyone can understand, and try to supply help to my fellow Sunday school teachers, as well as knowledge for those that are new to Christianity, new to being saved and being children of God, and have no idea what this Jesus thing is. Believe it or not, there are some people out there that don't know, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I hope to help people in their knowledge. And there's some people that have gone to church their entire lives and have no idea this stuff is in the Bible. Again, that's okay. I am so glad that you are taking an opportunity to enrich yourself in Jesus and God and all that there is to know in the Bible. So, I do 10-week lesson plans, and we are on our 5th lesson, I believe, and it is Don't Turn Back. Now, don't worry, we'll get to these guys later. These are for my demonstration. Okay, so let me make sure you can see them all. There we go. So, there are 10 guys here, and we need these 10 guys. But 2 of them are special. So who are my special guys here? Which one do you think? I know I can't hear you, but we're going to make them green. For go. Okay. That will come relevant later. Why we need them green. Alright. So, I got my 10 guys here. Now we're going to learn about this story. Now, this story takes place in Numbers, in the book of Numbers, chapter 13. Those of you who are Bible readers are kind of familiar with this story. So, it takes place with the children of Israel. They have been wandering for weeks in the desert, heading to the promised land. And every time they had something come up or some need arose, God always supplied. Whether it was in a battle, whether it was they needed food, they got manna from heaven. They literally, which every morning there would be bread spread out all over the ground. And they didn't know what it was. It was like sweet bread. And they would eat it, and it was sweet, and they didn't know what it was, so they called it manna. And this stuff would show up every morning. So they always had food. They were always taken care of. So even their journey to get out of Egypt was a spectacle to watch. Because God, He pulled out all the stops to get them out of Egypt. Okay? He put on a grand display. There was no denying Him. He was God. So, they finish their journey and they come to the promised land, and Moses decides to send 10 spies in to see how abundant how well the soil was, and how well they could grow crops, and how well they could tend sheep. And so he sent all 10 spies to go into the promised land and see what they found. Let's go. And 2 of these spies was named, I'm not going through all their names because some of them are really hard to pronounce, but these guys are important. One is Joshua and one is Caleb. And they all went, and that might not be able to be seen in the green. And they all went out to find what they could find. And at that time, the grapes were coming on, and they could find pomegranates. They found all sorts of things. And then they came back to Moses with all that they seen in the promised land. This land was promised to them. It was promised to their forefathers. It was promised to all the generations to come. As they were in Egypt, this is what they were told constantly. This is your promised land. The land of Israel, your father, your forefather. This is where we belong. This is where God's going to take us. This is where we're going. And they finally get there, and these guys come back, and they've seen the abundance of what's in there. And Moses asks them, what'd you see? What'd you find? Is the land bountiful? And they answer, these two guys go, yes, it's bountiful. It's there. And everybody else, all these other spies, 8 spies, say, there's no way we can take it. There's giants in the land. There are huge men. There are cities with fortresses around them. I mean, with walls, thick, big walls. They're fortresses. Their people outnumber us just the same, are like grasshoppers, they said. And they are the same amount of number as we have. About equal number of people. There's no way we could take it, Moses. These two guys say to Moses, is not God for us? We could take it. We could take this promise. It is ours. I'm paraphrasing. If you wish to read it yourself, please do. And these people speak up and say, no, we can't do this. These, start with an A. Oh gosh, I forget their name. But they're giants. They're huge. And then there's the Canaanites. And they live by the water and in the hills. There's we cannot take this, Moses. And they cry so loud that everybody else hears them. Everybody else in the camp hears them. And they start saying to Moses, Moses, has God led us here to die? Lead us all this way just to watch us die in this so-called promised land? Take us back to Egypt. Yeah, Moses, take us back to Egypt, where we had it so good. Can you imagine? God does all of this for you to deliver you from slavery, and you say, let's go back to Egypt? And these guys Caleb starts saying, gets on his knees and they say tear out his clothes, rent out his clothes, but that means tear out his clothes. He's like, we can do this. We have God on our side. We can do this. Trying to kindle some favor. And Moses and Aaron start kowtowing. That means they start backing up. Because the people, they're trying to get these people to do it. And God says to Moses, that's it. If they don't want to do it, fine. Again, I'm paraphrasing. I have taken it to here. I am done. It's pretty bad to get God like that. It takes a lot to get God like that. But these people have done it a number of times. And every time Moses would say, God, you promised. I mean, when he came down from Mount Sinai, God was going to kill them all. Gone. And Moses said, God, you promised. God had had enough. But God always keeps his promise. Always. There's never a moment God has ever not kept his promise. But God told Moses this, because they won't follow what I say. All the 8 spies that came back with the bad report, pestilence is going to come upon them and they're going to die. And for 40 years, the children of Israel, they're going to go back into the wilderness. And you're going to stay there, lost in the wilderness for 40 years. Until the generation that would not go is gone. Until the generation that is so hung up on Egypt and so used to that slave mentality is gone. I'll raise up a new generation. So God kills all 8 of these guys. Seeing that God was serious, some guys say, okay, since God said God's going to do this, why don't we try to redeem ourselves in God's eyes, and we're going to take a city in the name of God. We're going to go after these guys. Moses is like, too late. You had your chance. But these guys weren't listening, so they went down, and every single one of them was killed. Kind of a harsh story, right? So all the children of Israel end up back in the wilderness, and they stay there for 40 years. Whole generation dies. New ones rise up. The only 2 that live, even Moses and Aaron die. Only 2 that from that generation, from the 2 spies that said we can take him, ended up rising up and becoming the leaders of the Israelites. Became the only 2 to step back into the promised land, was Joshua and Caleb. Their doubt did not even come into their minds, because they believed. They didn't let fear hold them back. They believed that they could do it, because God had so many times proven over and over again that he was for them. And every time God would put his approval on something, they always achieved it. They always conquered. They always ended up on the good part of life, because God put his approval on it. These 2 knew that if God said they could take the promised land, that it was theirs for the taking. All they had to do was fight. Now let's apply this to real life. That is real life. This story, I've told this several times. These stories aren't fake. I know they sound made up. Some of these stories sound like fantasy because they sound so unreal. But this is a real story. It really happened. These are real people. And this can be applied to your everyday life. Sometimes in our lives, we have prayed for something for so long, and we have journeyed. God takes us on, yes, we go on spiritual journeys. You might be in the same spot, but God can take you on a journey. And you have prayed and prayed and prayed. And every time God has supplied it, and every time you have overcome something, And every time, and then you come to what you were promised. But there's giants, God. They're huge. Yes, we're all born with an ability. We're all born with dreams. Sometimes God takes churches. Sometimes God takes groups of people. Sometimes God takes individuals. And He leads us on this fantastic journey. And sometimes we fail and we falter, and sometimes we get lost and have to come back to the path. But God's leading us on a journey. And God sometimes puts what we've prayed right in front of us. And we see it. And God, we send little feelers out. Start looking at it. And God says it's yours. But God, there's giants. God, I'm going to have to fight. God, it's hard. God, I don't know if I could do it. It's easy to look and see the giants. It's easy to see the enemy that's facing you. It's easy to see the challenges. But hasn't God always come through before? If you're new to the journey and you have no idea, can God do this? Yes, He can. If you're new to the journey, find some other people that have been in it longer, and they will tell you stories. Miracles do happen, and they happen every day. And God gives us all an ability, and He wants us to use it. And some of us, He takes on fantastic and magical journeys. He takes churches that are so small and they've been desecrated and they've been hurt. And He can take those churches and rebuild them. But there's giants. Sometimes there's poison in the water and you have to get that poison out. Don't be afraid to push forward. If God be for you, then who can stand against you? Everything we do is for the glory of God. And it's such a powerful way of looking at it. That you're not alone ever. Even when it seems like there are giants before you. God's bigger than the giants. God's bigger than whatever challenge is before you. And God will take care of the impossible. You do the possible. Just like Caleb and Joshua saw. The children of Israel could take care of the possible. And God had already taken care of the impossible. They had seen it 100 times. You can take care of the possible. God has given you the abilities, whether you know it or not. And if you don't think you have the ability, pray for it. Ask God for the ability. And sometimes what you thought wasn't there, God already gave it to you. You just have to grab hold of it. He wants you to march forward. Don't turn back. Don't go back into the wilderness. You'll die there. Go forward. The giants might be big, but again, God is always bigger. The enemy might look huge. There might be thousands of them. There are thousands of demons. But God is always bigger. And believe me, have you ever researched an angel? Whew, those boys could handle themselves. And you always have guardian angels watching you. Always. You are not alone. Claim your victory. Because God has already claimed His. Your journey doesn't have to stop. Your journey doesn't have to go backwards. Unless you're on the wrong path, then please go back to where you belong. And we will get into that next week. So, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Next week we're going to be learning about go back. No, wait. No, we're not learning about that one. That's the one after. We're going to learn about... Oh, God. I just taught it today. Two roads. Yeah, that's going to be it. That one... I'm taking a very complicated lesson in that one and making it for younger people. Trust me, it isn't a good lesson. It will help you discern what is of God and what is not. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope you join me again. If you are looking for more of my lessons, you can find them at Miss Wesley on YouTube. And if I ever do if I do lives, you'll find them on either on my Facebook page, which I do make them public, or you can probably find them, if I don't put them on there, remind me, on my Telegram. I do not like Twitter. And if I go live, I will inform you beforehand. So, I love you, God loves you, and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. So, no matter where you are in this life, you are loved. Goodbye!